Hi, I'm Ulysses,
And I'm Henry.
and this is Comics Odyssey. I'm glad that you joined us once again. I appreciate your loyal support. Today, we're going to be looking at the early Spider Man stories by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. Before we do all that, we want to invite you to like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever the litany of internet things that people usually say, do that. And if you're not subscribed to
Smash
our
that like
newsletter,
button.
smash that like button, as the kids say. And there's going to be a link to our newsletter down below. You can subscribe for free and make sure you never miss one of these podcasts, and you get additional content in your delivered to your inbox. So let's get going. Amazing Spider-Man, Stan Lee, and Steve Ditko. Um, I was at Indigo Books. I don't know. Is that what it's called in America? Indigo, that chain of bookstores?
I'm not familiar with any such chain.
Okay. It used to be called Chapters here in Canada.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, just big box bookstore. Um, because we were looking for some art books for myself and my wife, and I wandered over from the art book section to the comic book section, of course.
Of course. How could you not?
Yeah. And I was actually impressed. There was like a lot of books. Manga was taking over for a while, and there was
Hmm.
like barely any American comic books. But the American comic book shelf has grown again and is rivaling the manga section again.
Well, that tells me I need to go check out some of the big box bookstores here and see if I
Yeah.
can find some graphic novels like this that collect some of the ones that I love.
Yeah, so this collection I got because it was a bit of a impulse purchase, but I'd wanted this to read these Spider-Man comics for a while, and Penguin teamed up with Marvel to make a Penguin Classics. Like basically they're republishing old Marvel comics as Penguin Classics.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always liked the Penguin Classics. That's growing up. I read Frankenstein and Dracula and all that. I always loved those uh, Invisible Man and so forth.
Hmm.
But I
So
thought it was,
what is
uh,
what is Penguin's relationship to Marvel? Is it just as a distributor?
yeah, that's as far as I know. But they must have
Okay.
got some sort of licensing rights for this, obviously. And you can tell they're marketing to their their perceived demographic. They're catering to it. That this they're saying stuff like, oh, what did they say here? Oh yeah, for decades, Marvel has published groundbreaking visual narratives that sustain attention on multiple levels, as metaphors for the experience of difference and otherness, as meditations on the fluid nature of identity, and as high watermarks in the artistic tradition of American cartooning. And I thought, oh yeah,
Oh
and
yeah,
if
the
you,
usual demographic woke boomers.
yeah, it's like they feel they need to hyper intellectualize what they're reprinting because, of course, we don't read these funny books, right? Like we're
Right.
smart people, right?
Yeah,
And
our
they do
consciousness was high even back then.
that's right, yeah. They do give some historical context, but for the most part, this is pretty much garbage. There's really nothing in this forward. Um, you know, they talk about stuff that has they're trying to say that people are interested in these comics because for whatever pseudo intellectual reason. But people are interested in the comics because they look like this, right?
Right. Yeah, I was just looking at some reprints I have of Ditko's run on Spider-Man,
Yeah.
and there's one where he fights the Sinister Six,
Hmm.
which is Electro, the Vulture, Sandman, Mysterio, Craven, and Doctor Octopus.
Yeah.
And I may have missed one, but it like every with each one he had to battle in turn. There's a splash page there, and some of those were just really cool.
Yeah. Well, that it does reprint them quite a bit smaller. So like a modern age comic is this size. So it's smaller than the
Right.
modern age comic, and the Bronze Age comic would have been even a bit larger than this. So it does reprint them a bit smaller, but not so much smaller that you can't really
Yeah.
read it properly. But yeah, first appearance of Spider-Man like is amazing. It's just stunning, right?
Especially that picture. Yeah.
And
Something I noticed. Go ahead.
no, please.
Uh, well, something I noticed with Ditko's art in those early ones is that his Spider-Man wasn't all that muscular.
No,
He
not at all.
was, yeah. So you noticed it too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like even this here's just like just he drew him quite lanky and limmy, right?
Yeah, very skinny.
And if you see this image of Spider-Man, it kind of looks like the spider a little bit, right?
Hmm.
The way the
The
limbs are.
posture.
Yeah.
Yeah. The way the arms
Um,
hang. Yeah, you're
yeah.
right.
But you get the tension already in the first cover. Though the world may mock Peter Parker, the timid teenager, it will soon marvel at the awesome might of Spider-Man. Reminds me of the when I hear him talk, Spider-Man in this, it
Huh?
reminds me of the cartoon from the 60s.
I was just thinking of that earlier today. Yeah. But the villains is even worse. Stan Lee really liked that grandiose uh dialogue from villains where they refer to themselves in the third person
Hmm.
all the time. Now you must face the power of Electro.
Well, someone mentioned once that these books read best if you kind of read them as musicals where everybody is just blurting out their interior monologue, their interior feelings, you know?
Interesting. Interesting. I'll have to try that. Oh, and you know what? There was a musical play back in the 80s or 90s about Captain America.
There has been one about Spider-Man too, but it was fraught with
Really?
injury. What was interesting in this reprint is they included, so they have the Spider-Man origin story, which everybody knows at this point, so we're not gonna belabor it, but they
Right.
included in context with like adjacent to what else in Amazing Fantasy 15.
Oh,
And
okay. That's why that's there. Okay.
yeah, and it's a somewhat it shows you how striking it would have been next to There Are Martians Among Us, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of run of the mill sci-fi.
Because Marvel had just barely became Marvel like a year or two before he came along, and Fantastic Four was their first foray back into superheroes,
Hmm.
doing a lot of horror and even some romance and stuff like that when they were Timely or Atlas or whatever it was before Marvel.
What I was impressed with, like, so first appearance August 62, and
Uh-huh.
then March 63, which so quite a bit, quite a bit of time passed between the second appearance of Spider-Man,
Yeah.
right? And then, but he's got a full mag with the title on, and
Yeah.
apparently he was so requested. There were so many letters that they took that chance, and they right off the bat crossover with Fantastic Four, right?
Mhm. Well, in fact, What If number one, which I used to have an original uh, copy of, it was What If Spider-Man joins the Fantastic Four.
There you go.
Yeah, it's surprising that they waited that long because, as I always understood it, his appearance in Amazing Stories or whatever it was like, I mean, it sold like gangbusters. You'd think they would have jumped right on that, but it's like almost a year before his own title came along.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I don't know who knows behind the scenes, some business stuff, you know.
Yeah, and maybe it was hard for them to find an artist who had the time to write a new title. I don't know, or not to draw a new title. I forgot about the Chameleon. I was
At
trying
the
to
be
go through his rogues gallery in my mind the other day, and I
Yeah,
forgot about him.
I thought it was amusing in these early issues. He's not called Peter Parker's called Peter Palmer, which later they apologized for.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Man, if I read an uncorrected version of that, I totally forgot about it.
And then so 2 months later, so they're at this point, Amazing Spider-Man is coming out every 2 months in his full mag. Um, like this, all of this, man, like just takes me right back to watching the cartoon as a kid.
Did the Vulture ever appear in the cartoon?
I don't remember a lot about the cartoon. I remember the Rhino.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, I remember him.
yeah, I was a really, really young kid. Um, and eventually after that, like we got rid of the TV, but I remember the Spider-Man mostly because of
I,
that theme song, the amazing big band jazz theme song.
yeah.
So great.
Spider-Man. I with when I was either a freshman or a sophomore in high school, and they started showing that, reruns of that cartoon on like at the after school hour, like before the news and all that came on, and like competing with or maybe right before the game shows came on.
Hmm.
And I think I saw every episode they made, but I've forgotten who is in them now. I do remember the Rhino.
I remember Dr. Octopus.
Was he? Yeah, I was trying to. I think Electro was in one of them. But
Um,
now that I think about it, that was probably Marvel's. The Batman TV show like took the country by storm,
mhm.
and those cartoons, because there was also an Iron Man cartoon and a Captain America cartoon. Those were probably Marvel's way of, hey, we got to cash in on this new superhero craze on TV,
Right.
and they couldn't afford. I don't know what the how it played out, but for whatever reason, they went with animation instead of live action.
I do also remember the Scorpion, I
Was
think.
he okay?
Yeah.
That
Oh,
was one of the first Spider-Man comics I ever read. Was the Scorpion was the villain, and the Tarantula
hmm.
and the Jackal.
So most of these, actually, I believe all of these, stick to a thirds layout. So everything's split up in
Hmm.
thirds. It just churning them out like that, like basically like got a job to do, split them up in thirds, and a lot of 9 panel. But he does break them up a little bit. I really like this sequence. I think it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I remember that one too. Yeah, I remember this one. Peter Parker had his own chemical lab, or maybe he was borrowing the one at the high school.
This one's the terrible tinkerer.
I
Uh,
remember that one too. Yeah.
yeah, it's it's not the best. It didn't stick. We've never really heard of this guy again, but he ends up just basically being an alien. Um,
Yeah. Those
but
panels with him fighting the Vulture, those were really some the way they were laid out. Uh, I don't know if you'd call it the Mighty Marvel style, but it was very visually, it was very striking.
Oh yeah. And Ditko is like establishing all the stuff that we still know, the way the web shooters work, and
Right.
they, yeah, they he even drew a little. I thought it was interesting during the story. There's a just a
Uh-huh.
little interruption with a diagram of how the web shooter works.
That was not that uncommon back then,
Hmm.
apparently. But I remember reading that, and it's kind of like, when you and I were talking about epilogues,
Mm.
it's just like I read it and I didn't question it. I was like, oh, okay, so that's something you can do,
Yep.
and never really thought about it critically.
I have a character at some point who's going to be like a machine oriented, technology oriented guy, and I want to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I would have no problem with that
This is
as a
this is
reader.
great. I love this. So beautiful. Just
Yeah, he
his
really got
line.
his composition down. And that bottom right panel of him like swinging away on his web,
Hmm.
I think that looks really nice. That looks gorgeous.
All this stuff is all established. His tension between his, teenager secret identity. Um, there's
His
more
boss
bit.
at the newspaper who hates Spider-Man.
Yeah, Jonah Jameson, Aunt May. It's all there. All the
Hmm.
everything that we know. It's all Stanley, Steve Ditko.
The only thing that wasn't there yet that I can think of off the top of my head was Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane Watson, because
Yeah.
his love interest then was Betty Brant, I
Yes.
believe.
And in the movies, Sam Raimi movies, I was. It kind of made me root for Betty Brant. I kind of wanted Peter Parker to get with her instead of Mary Jane
Yeah,
because she was actually kind of sweet to him, and it wasn't this will she won't she kind of thing. And she wasn't like, oh, he didn't come to my play. Mwah. She was
right.
actually kind of into the guy, right?
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great panel.
Yeah, it looks like he's swimming in lava or something.
Yeah, it's like an explosion.
Yeah.
Explosion goes off.
It's quite a contrast when I look at the way he draws, Peter Parker and some of the others, and the way he draws Spider-Man and the villains. It's I think even his composition changes quite often, but it's when I looked at his, like, as a kid, I looked at his drawings of Peter Parker and I was like, man, this art isn't very good. But when he got to Spider-Man, it's like showtime.
I
The
noticed a
dynamic
lot.
poses and the yeah.
Yeah, so spraying all over the place. And, um, a lot of the villains tend to be older guys. I think there's the young person, the new is great, and the older guys, oh, they're stodgy old guys.
Well, you know what? So if you got a minute to humor me uh, in spouting off some of my thoughts on this,
Dude, I
is
got
that
a
that's
whole hour and a half.
okay, cool. Um, these guys, well, I'm not sure exactly when Ditko was born, but they were writing to a boomer audience. And the boomers, of course, one of their famous sayings was never trust anyone over 30.
Mm,
And their parents typically were from the GI generation, had gone through the Depression and World War II. And they spoiled that generation. Um, well, I shouldn't say spoiled. They indulged that generation, and unfortunately for them, their kids grew up hating them for the most part, especially their fathers. And
mm.
I can't help thinking that played a part subconsciously, if nothing else, in choosing these older guys from their parents' generation to be the villains.
Mm. Well, the whole theme of Spider-Man, at least at this time, is a little bit like adolescent angst.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got adolescent problems, high school problems, girl problems, bully problems.
Hmm.
It's definitely an adolescent setting.
Well, but if you look at well, of course, Strauss and Howe placed the boom generation differently than like Pew Research and those do. So their birth years, according to Strauss and Howe, are from 43 to 1960. So the oldest of them, the first cohort, had just barely gotten into college, and then the youngest of them were adolescents themselves.
Mm. First appearance of Sandman.
Or some of them were actually just 2 years old, the youngest ones.
Yeah, I read some stuff on your website that's goes into a lot of depth about intergenerational dynamics. It's pretty interesting.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad somebody thinks so.
Yeah, it's not something I followed very closely, the whole generation thing, and I tend to forget like what the generations are, except the boomers. I'm aware more or less of who they are,
Hmm.
because I guess I grew up with boomer parents.
Right.
They would have been born a little bit before the boomers, but they definitely benefited from all the boomer privilege. uh, you know,
Yeah.
they, my dad got a job at the cement plant, just basically walking in at the cement plant in small town, Eastern Canada. And, by the time he was 30, he bought a 5-bedroom house for $17 or something stupid like that, right?
Wow.
I'm exaggerating, but
Just a
it's
wee bit, but yeah.
yeah,
Like college tuition, you could pay for it with a summer job back then.
yeah, exactly. And I remember there being tension, kind of, they didn't get it because it was like, oh, don't worry about it, just get a job.
Right.
Things
Right.
have changed, my friend. Like, it's not going to be, I'm not just going to walk into somewhere, get a job, keep it for 30 years, and everything will be fine, right? Like, it's not.
Get to retire and they give you a gold watch and all that stuff. Yeah. Well, I never, honestly, I never really considered, I never thought demographically, and I never, thought much about the generations. I could tell that um, I didn't get the benefits that the people before me did, and I didn't get the coddling that the people after me did. But I never really thought about people and demographically. And when people started, uh, hating on the boomers on social media and stuff, I actually got into arguments about it sometimes. Like, how can you judge, an entire generation as if they're one big monolith and they're not, uh, individual personalities at work there. But without going into it too deep, my perspective changed a little bit after I discovered generational theory.
Right.
Some of these, like that panel where he lands that hellacious wallop on the Sandman. Oh, beautiful panel.
I have to say, Electro is probably got the best costume in all of superhero comics.
Well, I definitely give him. I would say he's definitely the best costume in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery for sure.
He looks
I could not believe.
bananas.
Did you see the movie where they had him in it? Supposedly him.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
It was awful, and they totally changed his personality, everything.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
just wasn't Electro, but like to me, Electro, he needs to have this just stupid, dumb mask on.
I don't think it's all that dumb.
It's
In fact, I might wear
stupid.
something like that for Halloween someday.
It's amazing. I love it. It's so it's, it's
Kind of campy,
absurd.
right?
It's absurd, but it's an amazing silhouette to begin with.
Right. Never
And I
mistake him
loved
for
it.
anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. The striping You could definitely do something with that, like artistically, where he might show up and you want to make him look menacing,
Uh-huh.
and he'd like be walking up a dark alley or something, and you don't see him except you see the yellow parts of his costume,
Uh-huh.
and everything else would be black, right?
Yeah.
You could play with
And you
stuff
see a
like that.
silhouette, and like there's no silhouette like that in the world.
And Ditko doesn't really play with it that much, except a little bit here. Um, but Ditko's more of a line artist. Uh, but you could definitely, pump up the shades and the contrast, because you
Uh-huh.
could do amazing lighting effects because he shoots light, right?
Right.
And you could just totally play with the different angles of lighting and dramatic like under lighting, top lighting, that sort of thing, right?
And you just made me think of something I read about colors. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, that's fine.
He
I
kind of
did,
does that there, right? It's almost
yeah,
black.
he just does it quite minimally.
So I was reading something, and whoever was writing it pointed out that the Marvel artists really like, for villains, they really like the combination of green and purple. And
Yes.
when I thought about it, I thought, well, Doctor Octopus,
Yeah.
Doctor Doom.
Sandman.
Um, well, I don't see any purple on Sandman.
Well, not so sorry. There's a pre predominance of green in the villains.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah,
then a
absolutely.
lot of
Like
green and purple together.
Mysterio, the Shocker, Sandman, Electro,
Yeah.
Vulture. They really like green on their villains. But so I may play with that a little bit. I
Like
may
here's
code it
another
that
guy
way.
in
Maybe
green.
even, yeah, sure enough. And the guy on the far right is in purple.
Yeah. And which contextualizes the decision to make the Hulk green.
Oh, well, you know what I read about that? You may know this already, but originally they did that. Well, no, he started out gray, didn't he?
Gray, yeah.
But there
But it
was
wasn't showing up well on paper.
a connection of some kind that Stan Lee talked about, where like it was kind of a Frankenstein
Yeah.
monster.
Yeah. And that's why they wanted him gray, I think.
Okay.
That
I
skin
always
that,
thought like the Frankenstein monster was green, but the one played by Boris Karloff, but it was black and white. So how can you tell?
yeah, there you go. So some more commentary here, which I didn't read. There's your Mysterio guy. Probably the second best costume, at least in Spider-Man Rogues Gallery. This is just bonkers, but it's quite evocative and a little bit, I don't know, a little bit creepy or something.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing with a character like that.
Um, so when you read comics, are you more attracted to the heroes or to the villains, the supporting characters? What's your main thing that grips you? The world building, the artwork, like,
Well, when I was younger, and I said that as a comment on one of your posts. When I was younger, I was much more visually oriented than I became later on. And so the colors got me, and I still like bright colors, loud colors to this day. There was something about and Batman was my absolute favorite from the beginning. He's kind of what got me into comics. And there was something about his appearance that just drew me in. And then because of his appearance, I started reading him and learning more about him, and I liked what I found out. So, and it's always been the heroes. I've always been into the heroes. So I'm not I guess I'm not very complex that way. I'm kind of simple-minded about it.
uh, I guess I don't understand why that's simple-minded.
Well, I guess you maybe traditional is a better word, where
Okay.
like I like the good guys, and I like the good guys to win.
Okay. Okay.
And during the 80s, especially with some of the independent comics or the lesser known imprints, they really got into this postmodern storytelling that where like the good guys are incompetent, and get defeated in the end. And I just don't like that. In fact, in the 80s, what turned me off of Spider-Man, he's one of my favorite characters. What turned me off is in the 80s, they started making a wimp out of him, where like in one point, Dr. Octopus knocked him out with one punch from his human hand. And Spider-Man lost a street fight to some normal guy that didn't have any powers at all. Um, just more because originally, in fact, there was like a little, I don't know what you call it, an informative page in the back of one of the Spider-Man books that in the early days from the 60s, where it said it compared him to the other Marvel characters, and it said he's the strongest in the Marvel universe. The only ones stronger than him are the Hulk, the Thing, and Thor. That obviously changed later on.
This is the credits here. Written by Stan Lee, The Poor Man's Shakespeare. Illustrated by Steve Ditko, The Poor Man's Da Vinci. Lettered by Art Simic, The Poor Man's Rich Man.
How funny he would describe himself that way, because some of his dialogue is so grandiose and so archaic and anachronistic. Yeah, I guess he was trying to be Shakespeare. If you read his autobiography, Excelsior, the reason why he went with that pseudonym Stan Lee instead of his given name Stanley Lieberman is because he didn't want to be associated with comic books when it came his time to get into real, impressive literature.
Right, right. I guess for me, what attracts me the most is I guess it's the world of comics. So less so the characters. Of course, I love the characters, but for me, it's it feels I need a comic that feels like it's a place I can kind of inhabit in my mind.
Okay.
So I guess that would be the world building. And so the when I see these, I find them less attractive than the Batman comics, because the Batman comics, it feels like Gotham is a place I can go to in my imagination,
Huh?
whereas New York is a place.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I remember
But it's
growing up, so the whole story, the whole thing about Spider-Man, I liked Spider-Man as a kid because I liked the way it looks, I liked the powers and stuff, thought it was cool.
mhm.
Um, but I remember I would imagine myself being Spider-Man because that's what little boys do, I'm Batman, I'm Superman,
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember we would be driving along the road, but I'm in rural, New Brunswick, and I would be like, oh, but I can't swing. The best I can do is swing from, telephone pole to telephone pole.
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't, then all of a sudden you can't because you get to the highway, and it would just like be stupid for Spider-Man to be like running along the highway to try to catch a villain, right?
I did have those thoughts too, because
Yeah.
yeah, I lived in a very desolate place. For most of the places I lived were really out in the country when I was a kid. And yeah, and even when we lived in a more urban area, there were no skyscrapers or anything that anybody could swing from. But honestly, Batman did swing from buildings too, like
Yeah,
with
but for
his
some
really
reason,
thin bat line.
the fact that he's in a fictional place, I can like kind of hook into that. Like
Uh-huh.
I can imagine I'm in the fictional place for some reason.
I'm kind of curious. So, because you've mentioned world building before, what is your definition of world building?
Um, oh wow. Yeah, here's another thing. That's like the epilogue thing. I just never really questioned
Okay,
it.
okay.
Uh, hmm.
Well, what does it mean to you though?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Um, I kind of feel like the places need to be made from scratch. I I
Oh,
much
okay.
prefer fictional places than real world settings. Um, because what we're dealing with in the stories are, I want the whole thing to be in the imagination,
Hmm.
right? The marvels, the world outside your window, it does not appeal to me. I want the world inside your imagination, right?
Okay.
Um, but I guess I want the place to feel like it might be a real place that and it operates according to uh, its own internal intuition. Um, for me,
So it
Lord
has
of the Rings,
verisimilitude. It's similar to the world we live in, but there's enough room for fantastic things to happen.
yeah. Um, like I really like Lord of the Rings. To me, Tolkien probably did it best ever. Um, what's world building? Well, let me show you. This will be a plug for my comic. Hang on.
Okay. Adequate? Or,
So this is Spirit Girl 3, which you can purchase comicsodyssey.ca/store, link below. Um, world building.
mhm.
Okay. So the story is here. So there's a focus to the story. It focuses on this guy and his friend, but there's a there's a map here of Estlin and the Sentinels, which are mentioned just once, right? So when this
In an
guy,
earlier book?
nope, mentioned here, right?
Oh, okay.
So this guy kind of sticks his neck out for this guy, but gets in trouble. And
Hmm.
they're all in trouble, so they have to become fugitives. And he says, "You're on your own now. I can get out of here by booking passage to the Sentinels, but you're going to have, they're not going to take you on, right?" Um, so I want, personally, as a reader, I want to know where the Sentinels are. I don't want it to just be a word,
Okay.
So I was like, I want people to be able to look and to have their imagination tickled by the fact, like, oh, that's why they call them the Sentinels, right? So that
Yeah, I think it's crucial if you're going to give something a place name that you need to provide some context so your reader can visualize where that place is.
right. And then this is world building for me. So we come, we're in a kind of a medieval setting. Uh, you know, you got the King's Guard, you have a king. There's giants, they got goat heads and everything, right? And
Uh-huh.
then there's sorcery and all this stuff. And then you get to the present, and there's just a small town called Harry Bear. And then this is a page from the Harry Bear Weekly local newspaper classified ads.
Very
So
cool.
the
Very cool.
juxtaposition, the contrast of this kind of ancient land with the ancient text and everything to
Uh-huh.
small town culture, right?
Yeah.
And I designed each of these ads so that you can, of course, you can skip them, right? But if you read
Yes.
each of these ads, uh, over the years as I write comics, there's going to be stories about things that appear in these ads.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So to
In a
me,
way,
that's
you're enhancing the backstory through these ads.
yeah, exactly. And it's to me that's world building because it feels. I actually worked at a. That was one of my jobs. I worked at a newspaper, a local, small rural area newspaper, right?
Hmm.
And so, and so I took my experiences from, like someone just selling a stove, uh, someone looking for old circuit boards and motors and stuff,
Uh-huh.
right? Um, and it's just also a callback, a little bit of a callback to old comics ads, gain
Like the Charles
heroic
Atlas thing.
physique. Yeah, exactly. Or like learn martial arts by mail order.
Right. I remember those too. And as a kid, I was like, man, if I only had the money to do this. I I I pretty much I agree with you about, well, like from a creator standpoint, I like the alternate realities and the, world building a new place that's not supposed to be Manhattan or wherever. It gives you a lot of leeway as a writer. Because when you try to make something take place in a rural area, then at least for me, I feel these limitations on me. Like I have to be super realistic and accurate, and like anything I talk about, I need to research it deeply. And I do all these things for my prose books, except unless I'm doing fantasy or science fiction.
To read No Man's Land.
I can't remember what's that one about.
So the bridges through a very stilted conceit, the bridges to Gotham get blown out, and Gotham's declared no man's land, a no-go zone, and basically abandoned by the U.S. government.
Huh.
And so basically, you have X amount of time to get out. If not, you're stuck in there. And so it becomes like a completely new dynamic, right?
Okay.
Um, so it's got a bit of a, it's like, okay, the criminals are out, batteries are in high value. There's no fresh food. It's a whole new dynamic, right? And this is the map of Gotham, uh, that with the territories. So it tells you like this is Black Mask's territory, GCPD's here, and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah. No,
So
I have not read it. It must have
this,
come out after I quit
yeah.
comics.
So this is I like that. Like to me, that's immersive.
I like that the idea of that map there. Does it show where I'm sure it does. Does it show where a crime alley is and
Oh
the
yeah, it
narrows?
has it has all that stuff. Yeah, let me find it again.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and also had like Bob Kane sound, um, Archie
Nice.
Goodwin International Airport,
Cool.
so on and so forth. Sprang Bridge, Cape Carmine.
Oh, perfect.
It might be because I spent a lot of years playing role playing games, right? And
Hmm.
a lot of it's map based for combat and stuff, right?
And there's a lot of world building involved. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, So that's the early appearances of Spider-Man, um, and at the request of a lot of our readers, they want more reviews. So it's kind of hard for you to review this because you have read the early stories. So you can give your thumbs up or thumbs down on the stories, but I'll give kind of my opinions on this particular collection. So what do you think?
Um, well, I know certainly I have not reread them in a while, but certainly as a kid, even a teenager in my early 20s, I really enjoyed them. So as comic stories, I think they were great. And Ditko was writing, well, I kind of credit him for the stories because with the Marvel method, really all Stan Lee did was pitch the idea, and then once Ditko had finished with them, he went in and put in the dialogue, which, as I understand it, that's how the Marvel method worked.
I think the other way
So
around. It was Lee putting in the dialogue.
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So Lee pitched the idea, then Ditko did
Yeah,
the art, telling the story basically, and then Lee went back and put in the dialogue.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry if I wasn't clear on that. But Ditko accomplished a lot, and there was he was obviously writing it to appeal to young people, but there was a sophistication kind of, and he kind of told it wasn't like rich in subtext like a Hitchcock movie or something, but it was there was enough there. He found a balance that could appeal to different age groups, and so they're still approachable now, and they don't seem, aside from stuff like Electro's costume and pretty much all the villain dialogue, it's not too campy. It's really enjoyable stories, and you sympathize with Peter Parker especially, and you thrill when Spider-Man is beating the fool out of bad guys and wisecracking through it. So I give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, so definitely these early stories. I mean, it's hard to give them a thumbs down just from from the historical impact they've had. So definitely do check out those early stories. This is the DNA to a lot of comic book storytelling that we've come to appreciate now. This collection, I would say, seek out a better one. It does skip some issues that it just deems, you know, below its, that just deems not valuable to study, whereas, like, maybe leave that up to the audience. And also, you can get some reprints that are reprinted the actual size of the book. And it has a lot of this sort of fluff that, to like someone who's really interested in comics, is going to be either retread or pseudo intellectual. It's not going to come across that well. So I would say thumbs down on this particular volume, but thumbs up in general for early Spider-Man stories. Do seek them out and try to acquire them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
So
thank you for reading that additional material for us so we don't have to.
yeah, I read enough of it to know that I'm not into it. So yeah, thank you for joining us on this friendly neighborhood stroll through the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, and we'll see you in the next one.